We are good to go.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the 11th of January meeting for NatickFOSS. We are online and probably will stay that way as the uh, pandemic seems to not be fading too bad. But we are going to deal with it and are happy to see everyone here online as current participants in the JITC meeting, along with people who are later going to watch what we have just started recording for today. I will quickly share for putting our agenda online, but welcome happens anyway. Share my screen. A window of Firefox. There is our agenda shared. It is the local version, as usual, for making it easier to have a full screen view of what we're going to try to talk about. While that is available to us in this shared way, everyone else can consider going to NatickFOSS's agenda page, archive, where this current meeting has pretty much the same listing. It typically gets put online a couple of weeks before a given meeting, but this time it was only a week ahead of schedule. And I'm hoping everybody got a chance to look at it ahead of time so that as we go through these items, you're ready to make your own comments. Audio being one of the things that was just being discussed as we started the meeting, the FOSS news for 3 of the 4 items is about what is maybe going to become the default for everybody's audio systems. It's called Pipewire. We mentioned it last month with the notification of the release, and I was interested to find out more about it. So found the second link for this month comparing ALSA, which is one of the Linux audio systems, Jack, a more professional level for people doing audio recordings as a profession and running a bunch of synthesizers, sharing various feeds together, and then Pulse Audio, which is more or less, I think, the current front runner for maintaining audio services on Linux. But if you are interested in getting into the details, this link would take you to a site which has a variety of very good information comparing the different types of audio servers and services. I don't know if any of you are deeply interested in it, but it may be of good value to those who are looking ahead to the future, because Pipewire is in line to do fancier things, or at least to join the paths together that were formerly something that each user had to set up and have to keep from having the different parts fail when they weren't quite in the same line. Now they're being combined into this new Pipewire system, as I understand it. In addition to that, there appears to be a real-time audio system called AudioFile Linux that has a good deal more feature for it to just work with people wanting to have a system that combines your local computer with your uh, stereo system, with the radio feeds and streams that are available on the internet. And if you are, in fact, an audiophile, a person who loves audio, you might be interested in looking at that. Oh, I did it again. I knocked out my. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I just went backwards, which I was supposed to do. And then in the FOSS news,
Yep,
something.
You're fine.
Yes.
You're fine.
Something that I want to bring to our group's attention well before it happens. We seem to come up on the events of Linux only a short time ahead. Here we have a month and a half to see if we want to do something with the I love software freedom approach and come up with whether or not we want to actually thank directly some developers of software. We probably are aware that Dick, for example, is very into the the photography software, whose name is leaving my brain just at the moment. I know Dick will remind us.
That would be Photox.
That is Photox. Thank you. And sending a thank you in more or less a physical way was what's recommended by the Free Software Foundation of Europe. And as a starter, I threw together this card that we could get printed, not having to do thousands of them, but for any of us who actually know a developer, a contributor to the free software that we love, we could send them this card with a personal thank you note on the reverse side, which hasn't been made up yet. But this postcard would not only let people know that we're sending the cards to, but anybody who saw it on the way to their mailbox might be able to get the message too that it's a good thing to talk about free software.
I'll talk not to use both electronically and snail mail.
Oh, yes. This is just intended to make a 6x4 postcard. And it's maybe not enough information, and we have the month and a half to try to solidify it before the actual February 14th celebration day, should we decide that that's a good idea to do.
Sounds good to me, and I have some places to send.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, and back here. Anybody else have FOSS news that we should hear about?
I have something. I'll be giving a talk later today, and on the heels of that, I've been looking at some specific software of interest. Some of it looks interesting, but I'm not yet familiar with it. And I just wanted to ask, there's a brand new version out from a few days ago of Pipewire reminded me. Everybody knows YouTube, and there was something that for a while was called NewTube, and now it's called New Pipe. That's why Pipewire reminded me. I'm wondering if anyone's using it yet. I've got a month to get good at it, but if somebody's ahead of me, it looks interesting. and it sounds like it ought to be trustworthy, and I don't know more yet.
I can't
Nobody?
say that I've heard of it. No.
Okay, I'll keep it on my list.
I'll be looking for it.
Back to my thing here. From a perspective of FOSS history, there is a lot of it out there all the time. But this one is about technical information related to old floppy disks because most of us have abandoned them. I imagine nobody in this group uses a floppy disk or a floppy disk drive on a regular basis anyway. And lacking personal knowledge is only possible to overcome if you have somebody like this who actually made the effort to study up on all the old formats and all the methods of pulling the information off of the old floppies so that it could be actually still usable in some way if you hadn't already made a transfer away from the 3.5-inch floppy drives as represented right here. So if you are of and have an interest in this kind of technical level, Floppy Cafe is the site to start with, I think. If there are others, I'd be happy to hear about them. Okay.
Oh, Alga,
Yes, Dick.
sounds like you're setting me off on a lot of directions here. There's another way to solve that problem, and if somebody would like to pick up an old floppy drive from us, we have a small stack of them here. If anyone would like to pick up most anything else, including a lot of floppies, we have a small stack of that here. We're doing some decluttering and we're finding fascinating things, but for us they won't be useful. So, any of you who are into a little hacking out there, we've got most of an interesting computer that wants to be upgraded to the latest storage, things like that. Um, Lots of them. If somebody wants to give us a email, a call, a visit, you might go home with something interesting. Hate to turn it into recycling. The other kind.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
For
Yeah,
hot software, there is something that I have just heard about and know very little about. There's a new version of Wi-Fi that does not use the current radio band waves that have been reallocated from television, I think. And it is identified as Wi-Fi version 7. It sounds like Wi-Fi version 7 is going to take care of streaming at our near future, at least. Streaming being watching videos while you're on the go, not while you're hooked into a wire at home. But I suppose also streaming if you are hooked onto a wire. But it's Wi-Fi that is going to make it effective for people to be able to walk around with their phones turned on and not paying attention to the street as they walk, so they can watch Howdy Doody in the afternoon. Does anybody remember Howdy Doody? I'm sure some of this group must.
I grew up on Howdy Doody.
It's Howdy Doody time. Da, 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 da. Oh, the past,
Just like
the
Buffalo
past.
Bob Smith.
Mm-hmm. Buffalo
Just one.
Bob, and what was his sidekick? No, he
So you
was the
fit into the
sidekick.
cavalry.
Are you talking about Clarabelle the Clown?
It might have been. Sometimes the old stuff gets jumbled in my old
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah, Bob Keeshan was the first Clarabelle, but there were 4 or 5 Clarabelles along the
And
way.
became Captain Kangaroo.
Oh,
That
connections.
that is true.
Okay. Hot software in its own way. Thunderbird is a very popular email reader for many of us. I use mine very happily. And it turns out that they are intrigued in having donations made. Less than 1% of us who use Thunderbird actually do any of the funding for it. And Mozilla is the parent organization. If you are of a mean, both have the means and the interest to do so, you might consider going to this Thunderbird link to add it among the things you want to support financially. If you can't, don't feel terrible about it, but that's all right. This is one way to get there.
Have done so.
All right. I noticed that my Thunderbird has changed a lot in the last 6 months compared with what it used to be. And I'm still getting used to the little differences that I'm otherwise just looking at every day without really paying attention. Okay.
For
Yes.
what it's worth on that one, it's my recollection that Mozilla stopped development of Thunderbird, and that a separate group took it over, and now that group is continuing its existence through Mozilla as host. So it's part Mozilla and part not. I think I'm correct.
I haven't made the effort to look that up. I'm sure.
We like them both.
It sounded in recent days as if some people are feeling badly about Mozilla itself, and we will be getting down to a later item, I think, down. Let's see it right off the top, but there it is, the fall of Firefox in hot internet. Once we get there, maybe we want to take that up. Firefox is, take it up now rather than waiting. We're flexible around here. Firefox market share has held steady for a while, but in some government agency it is making the decisions what browsers to officially support. And they, at least in the article that I read, have decided that Firefox is falling below the 2% level of use, which means they won't bother to focus on it anymore in designing their web experiences for the people who want to go and see and use the forms that get made on the federal government websites. And I, for one, think that if we only have one browser, that Firefox should be it rather than the Chrome browser, even though I'm using Chrome to do my meeting here with a shared Firefox screen as the central place that my links run to. I don't ever think it has been a good idea to have only one browser engine. And unfortunately, that's because it used to be this site is best viewed on a Microsoft browser. And I always thought that was a bad thing when it happened. And it sounds like it might be happening again. So keep your eye open on the balance of what Firefox and the rest of the web are all about. Anybody have comments there before we re-enter the official line?
Yes, Algot, I entered an item. Firefox is not below the 2% mark. I entered the item that has the actual market share. It has held steady. It is rivaling, yes, stat counter. It rivals Edge in how many people use it. And this is a much broader index. The index that was used by ZDNet in that article was apparently designed to align with a certain editorial bias that they have. They're a pro-Microsoft site.
But if the government agency making decisions is using their own internal stats from their server logs, they may see a different demographic than stat counter sees.
Yes, but again, you're kind of getting into a chicken and egg situation. The sites were already designed to be used with Microsoft products.
Oh yeah,
and that would be the Chromium browsers.
The lack of adherence to HTML, XHTML standards in browsers is sort of original sin of the web, and we've continued sinning.
Indeed. I just wanted to point out that the statistics used that just simply said government websites and therefore Firefox is dying, that shows an editorial bias, in my opinion.
I agree with the editorial bias, but
I mean, they have an editorial bias, but if even Edge is below 5%, it's Chromium, Safari, and that's it.
Yes.
I'm surprised Samsung Internet's below 3%.
Well, again, very interesting. The stat counter does say that. I don't know how it is at the government websites. They may have better mobile support than other sites.
Yeah.
Be careful. We deal with a lot of government agencies that select Facebook and Twitter as their preferred places to post information based on this kind of reasoning. I like the fact that I'm working with small target applications rather than big target applications. And certainly I would avoid Facebook and Twitter. If they aren't doing that, we've got a problem.
Yeah.
And they aren't, and we've got a problem.
My experience has been that going to most sites to do financial transactions, there was a time when it was difficult to make those transactions without having an approved browser. That has been reduced over the years, but I'm hoping that we don't get into that situation again where you have to go using an approved browser based on statistics or whatever, that if you don't use that, you can't do the financial transaction. And we are going away from daily cash operations, and nobody expects you to write them a physical check anymore.
Yeah.
So we're getting to a cashless society, and if cash only goes through certain internet connections, then lots of people are going to be cut out of it.
Yeah. With regard to that, my bank site, strangely enough, in Linux, often won't work in Chromium, but it will work in Firefox. But they're actually hard coded to work best with Windows 11 and Windows 10. Actually, Windows 10.
Very strange.
And that would be Windows and Edge.
Mm-hmm.
So some Linux distros don't necessarily have the code needed even now for some financial sites.
So I just came back from the post office where I went to renew our passports, and they would not take a credit card. They will take a debit card, they'll take a check, and they'll take cash. And I couldn't even buy a money order with a credit card,
Wow.
which is weird.
Which
But
which
they-
is inversely proportional to what we've been talking about. Credit cards surely are the most popular.
Well,
Right.
Yes, but credit cards are more subject to checks, and credit cards are subject to kiting frauds, and money orders aren't. So
But they would take a
they've-
check. But they would take a check. And if you were doing it overseas, you could do it with a credit card.
I'm a little surprised they'd take a check to give a money order.
Well,
If
I
it's a
wrote the
local
checks
bank,
and
maybe they process it
Yeah.
real quick. But
Yeah, I better
The,
go and check because my passport is coming up in April.
they-
Well, it's 60 to
people
90
issuing money
days
order,
for renewal. So if you think
people
you might
issuing
be
money
traveling,
orders need to be real paranoid about how you pay them, because otherwise it's providing an upgrade of fraudulent money into good money.
but they would take a check or a debit card to pay for the passport renewal. And if you need to renew, they said it's like 60 to 90 days, so you better do it soon.
Some of us probably won't go out of the country. The rest of you can enjoy the trip.
Oh, we're going to be up in northern Maine in about 90 days for the solar eclipse.
Oh, yeah.
And if it's cloudy, we might want to drive up to Montreal, or I mean, not Montreal, into Quebec City.
We'll be next to it practically.
Right.
Look at Jackman, Maine on the map.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectly located, so I'm anticipating everything will cloud over.
Yes,
Jackman, Maine actually has a Tesla supercharger.
I
The
know.
last,
I've
last
looked at
time I was
the.
in, the last time I was
Looking
in
at the-
Jackman, they didn't. So I was 100. I had my Model S, which only had a 200-mile range, and so I was in Jackman. I was 100 miles from the nearest supercharger, which is exactly halfway between Augusta and Quebec.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be halfway
regarding the-
between. We'll be halfway between Jackman and nowhere, and on Parlin Pond. You can look it up, and that reminds me, in Maine, the definition of a pond is a lake that you can see across. Big pond.
Yeah, I'm unsure what to do for the eclipse because climatology, pretty much the entire Northeast should be full of clouds that week. So,
Well, if you're going to do something, do it soon because there aren't many accommodations left.
I understand that.
We're
problem.
lucky. We are lucky that Dick's nephew owns some cabins that he rents out, and we put our name in 5 years ago.
Yeah. I'm looking at either renting or buying an RV.
Okay. Very interesting. Oop. Can't do it that way.
Did Elgott do what I did one time and kicked himself out of the meeting?
I think he'll be back.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we can all make our reservations for the eclipse viewing.
So, Dick, what was the name of the place?
My apologies.
Where we will be going?
Yeah.
I forget the name of the town, but Parlin Pond has its own post office zip code. So PARLIN, Parlin Pond.
Is anybody's video messed up?
Mine's good.
I was just out of the meeting because I tried to click on a small window inside the Jitsi Meet window, and it was already being shared, and that kicked me out.
Ooh, I
But
know exactly. I've been by Parlin Pond. It's pretty close to Jackman.
Right.
Yep.
I used to canoe up there.
Yep, good place for that. Although we've got one that's a little handier to the house.
okay. Are we all set on the eclipse?
Well, we were using. Oh, probably can't hear me. We were using it without while you were AWOL.
Okay. Let me then not click that piece of the window, but this shared Firefox, and get us back to where we were, I think, just so we don't waste too much more time. Anyway, not that your comments are a waste by any means. Mine are. Parrot RSS is only of interest to those people who have both a fascination with really simple syndication and the Fediverse by way of Mastodon. It turns out that there's somebody who has allowed it or made it technically possible to have the account of somebody that you want to follow reach you as an RSS rather than
Oh,
doing it directly. But this Parrot RSS is new. I don't know anything about it. I just saw that was the case. And if you want to follow through, it is, I think, a useful thing because according to this screen, it says that you can get an RSS feed in your Fediverse account, your Mastodon account, or you can get somebody's website, or you can get a Substack newsletter, or follow somebody on Blue Sky should you wish to do that. And this is the directions for how to do it. What I currently do for any account that I don't actually follow within Mastodon itself is that I send the interesting information to my Thunderbird, which reads or allows me to accumulate posts from several locations already that are in the form of an RSS feed. And then I don't have to watch for the posts to go by. I can just look on my Thunderbird and find them there. I personally find that a little more effective. Nonetheless, I brought it to your attention in case it should be of interest to anybody.
Maybe.
Home Assistant goes together with the hot hardware Raspberry Pi and Arduino entries below, along with Simple Web Server. The Home Assistant is there because it is a hot piece of software that is something people have begun in the past 5 or so years to integrate
It had a
with all their.
It had a message about the post office.
I'm hearing somebody talking in the background. Am I missing something?
That was Tickie's not muted.
Oh, okay. The Home Assistant is software that allows you to control your house. And many, many people are doing this kind of stuff with commercial products. And Home Assistant, in fact, does integrate with a whole bunch of smart lights and smart refrigerators and smart toasters and smart doorbells and smart, any kind of equipment, but it goes beyond just the offerings of a commercial stack and allows you to do what your commercial products do. My sister-in-law has a Ring doorbell. The Ring doorbell has a camera on it. The camera lets her look out the front door from wherever she is in the house and sees whether a package has arrived, for example, or if somebody's standing there holding a box that should belong to them and running the other direction. She can see that happen. I don't know that I want to have Ring involved in my doorbells and my cameras, but you should recognize that while it's not necessarily Ring that you want, you might want to have some of this kind of stuff working on your behalf. And Home Assistant is software that is open source. It's Apache, it's not GPL, but as open source, it's examinable and you can do a great deal of your own work if you want to get involved in doing cameras inside your home. The reason that that ties together with the Raspberry Pi entries a little further down the list is that that is exactly what I have done, because an old camera that was watching my 3D printer died on me. It was one of those that you could get video and have it be on your local area network, your LAN, my LAN, not yours. And that allowed me to watch my prints from another room to see whether a 5 or 6 hour print was falling apart somewhere in the middle. And it turns out that with that camera gone, I went into a whole bunch of research to find a replacement, and many of them were $150 that would do what I wanted. And most of them required that I sign up for some kind of internet account that wasn't mine and potentially would have my local camera on the internet for other people to watch when I might not want that. In any case, for the cost of a Raspberry Pi and a small camera that attaches to a Raspberry Pi, I'm able to actually have a camera in my house that I'm going to show you here. You're not going to see too much unless you look not at my shared part of the screen, but at my window here. There, I'm putting it where it can be seen. This is my Raspberry Pi with a case that my 3D printer designed, having the logo of the Raspberry Pi on it. And on the blank side, the bottom side of the case, as it turns out, this can take a, oh, I did it again. Doggone it. Now, what do I do? Can I?
No, you're there.
Algot, I can see you, and I've put you in picture.
Well, I'm trying to get away from this little show me what I'm sharing. Oh, no, but that's inside. I don't know. I get lost in.
Was everybody able to see what Algot was showing?
In the little side window.
No,
If he brought up something else, no, I was seeing the agenda.
I'm just now having to re-enter for reasons I do not completely understand, but
If you want to see what somebody's showing when they're in their own little window, Jitsi has picture, which gives a little bit bigger view.
I'll have to figure that one out. In any case, now, I presume you're able to see this, and I'm going to just go directly back to Firefox because this part I do understand. And I'm going to open a bookmark that is my Raspberry Pi streaming camera. And if all works well, it should start.
I find the picture.
It's taking forever to load. Heck. I'll have to figure out what's going on. So let's abandon that effort. But anyway, I moved things around and I obviously disconnected something that needed to be connected. There's no power onto this. All right, I'll worry about that in a minute. The point being, Home Assistant is a way to get those kinds of things all integrated into something you control, as opposed to some other company. A simple web server is not general interest, but if you are trying to develop a website, you need a server to do it. And this particular link allows you a way to do that locally.
Oh, that's cute.
So if you want to learn how to actually set up a web server, you don't have to get involved with all the other stuff. This is a local web server And it's essentially the way that I'm running that camera when I can get it to work. Sometimes demos are the worst possible of all things. So there you go. That is a good link to learn about, I think. Similarly, hot hardware. A new wireless light switch is technology that is going to be a huge infrastructure assist for anybody who wants to add a new light switch without going into their walls. It costs $200 to change a light switch, just to take out the old click mechanism and put a new one in. Not because it costs that much, but that's what an electrician charged me recently. And if all I had to do was to hang a switch on the wall, I'd have been much happier. But if you think about regular switches, they have electricity that they're carrying from the fuse box in the cellar up to the light that it powers, and you have to have wires in between. Well, this battery-free invention will harvest ambient energy, making no need to cut into the walls, no need to do any fancy thing. And I thought, if this works out, it will be a great thing to keep track of. I don't think there's a commercial product out at the moment, though. Anybody have any?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
It's harvesting EMFs essentially.
That's what I understand it to be. Yes.
So you couldn't have a new house with no wiring to harvest the EMFs from.
You'd still need to have either solar panels on the roof or local utility connection. This just lets the switch collect up enough energy that when you flip the switch, it can send RF back to the device to say turn on, turn off.
Exactly.
I mean, you can recharge small batteries just with the energy that WBZ is pumping out. It just is kind of low and slow. This is what Nikola Tesla originally wanted to do instead of stringing wires everywhere. But intentionally adding more RF interference in a world where the FCC has given up on requiring that chargers used in the home are non-interfering is not going to make me happy. And the people who think that they're getting cancer or something from the
radio waves.
From the cell phone service towers are going to really love this one, but they don't have to install it in their home. So,
but it is.
Or they could install a whole bunch of them and harvest it all.
Yeah.
Well, for people who are concerned, they can always construct a Faraday cage. That's okay.
And they're cheap. Okay.
A whole house Faraday cage.
Also illegal to install in your theater.
They are illegal?
Yes. Some theaters have tried installing a Faraday cage to prevent people from using their phones during the movie. And they've found out that preventing people from calling 911 on their cell phones is illegal in a public space.
That's fascinating. Now, on the other end of electrical signals, we have solar panels in everybody's radar, but that daytime solar energy is difficult unless you can find some very capable absorbent current attempt to do that through heating rocks to near magma being the heat, that the description of the rock that is in the melted state in the center of the earth. If you have enough heat, you can get energy back from the rocks just as much as goes back in, because rock's very, very stable as a material. And this company is one of several that are trying to use the sun's energy in a concentrated form, storing it in hot rocks, and then having that available to the power grid. It's a big infrastructure kind of method, and it might be an answer to some of the problems that we have now with solar energy.
All right. The picture suggests that they're going to harvest solar power as electrical, convert it to kinetic thermal energy in the storage unit, and then convert that back to electrical, which is a multiple conversion process. That's exposing you to the efficiency percentage several times. In the old days, 1970s, we harvested solar thermal energy and saved it as thermal energy in water tanks or rock boxes, and directly heated the house or the hot water from the stored thermal energy, and there was no conversion of energy sources, just transfer from the device to the storage. Seems a little strange, but got to do something different to get a patent, I guess.
I think the idea with this is that they are intending it to be at the industrial electricity level, so that if you have a commercial installation of it, that you could run your factory on solar without drawing from the electric grid, because your solar would charge up the hot rocks and then feed back to the high level of need that your factory system needs.
The hot rocks still is a conversion of electrical energy to thermal, and thermal back to electrical, which is limited to Stirling cycle efficiency maximum, so that this is going to be less efficient than a bank of Tesla batteries in terms of kilowatts out per kilowatts in. So it has to be a heck of a lot cheaper, so that because you're installing twice as many solar panels to get the same amount of oomph.
On the other hand, in the Arctic and Antarctic, if you can plug into a volcano, you can cut off the first step, which is solar into thermal.
Oh, absolutely. We've been monitoring the geothermal station that has lava eruptions next to it in Iceland for the last 3 weeks.
Now,
Yes.
why do we need a long extension cord?
There also is geothermal energy available nearly everywhere if you go to enough depth. The problem has been how to efficiently drill that far, that fast. And there have been some laser applications suggested.
And for just heating your house, a heat pump can use the latent heat in the ground just below frost level 12 months of the year.
And probably none of this is going to have a direct impact because it's not free open source software, but it's one of those things that is so exciting in its seemingly exciting in its potential that we just have to talk about it in a meeting like this. Okay, I'm going to jump back here and let you know that the Model 5 Raspberry Pi is now available. I have not been able to do anything with it. Those of you who are not looking at my shared screen can perhaps see this box. I'm doing my best to get it where people can see it. This has come to me in recent days, and
you've now shared your address on the YouTube.
Nuts. Maybe Dennis can cut the address out. It's bad form. Thank you. But I don't think I can do a good job with the camera setup that I have unboxing it, but that may be next month's conversation because of that. Anyway.
Yeah, we had a whole BLU meeting. Our last BLU meeting was all about all about
Did that
Raspberry Pi 5.
Did that get recorded?
Yes.
Okay, I did not see it on the website, on the BLU
We did not.
website.
We did not. I had a problem. I've been having problems at the BLU meetings using YouTube streaming. So for the time being, we're just going to use the recording option, and then it's up to John to post it on the website.
Okay, I'll look for that in the future then.
Okay.
I'm intrigued to see somebody else's take on it.
Yeah.
For those who are interested, the Model 5 is available from Raspberry Pi. It is technically available as of October, but has not been shipping until just recently. And you had to have an order put in back as early as you possibly could to get in on the recent shipping, and this one just arrived. So what's different about it is technical material that adds features, including these two connections, which are direct monitor connections or direct camera connections. So there's some very intriguing possibilities adding to that. The normal HDMI out is through here, so you can have regular monitors, but these are alternate connections if you're doing non-HDMI cabling. And this little connector on the end, the thing that is most intriguing is that it is designed to connect to the solid state drives of the modern type, not the older ones that had to take up a lot of real estate. This one is for those, I forget again the name, the M2, Is that the term?
Yep.
Yep. And they don't have the connector available for it yet. They're designing that, but it will allow you to put one of the new M2 terabyte or larger drives directly into your computer. And this thing is a deck of cards in size. So you can have monitors that are fancy, and you can have storage beyond what is typical. Current typical is the little cell phone sized solid state drives that are micro SD cards, and they're not, they're not really able to handle the speeds for doing heavy duty computing, while the M2 style of solid state drives that are available for laptops and such will make a powerhouse out of this size computer. So I'll let you know more about it as I pursue it. I'm also working towards understanding the alternative processing of an Arduino, which is more in line with that home assistant kind of job. So I'm exploring all these concepts of Raspberry Pi and electronics and Arduino, and I'm hoping they're not going to overpower my brain, but I'll report back as I get more into them. The geology microscopy is probably another one of those, excuse me, technical topics. If you wanted to do a stone slice, and then you wanted to study that stone in detail, the high-priced geology microscopes move a stage so that your stone sample can be analyzed with a microscope in very minute detail, moving back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with the stage that's automated, the microscope stage. This is an implementation using the Raspberry Pi and one of the high quality cameras that attach to the Raspberry Pi to build a really low cost version of what is a ridiculously expensive lab instrument. They said somewhere in here how much it was. I think it was probably on the order of thousands of dollars. And here they have the image on my screen showing the sample being examined under a microscope in a very automated and steady way, so that a series of photos can be taken and then analyzed at a later date, rather than trying to manually do the work of repositioning the slide stage. So if you have that interest, microscopy and or geology.
Printed by your printer, your 3D printer?
It would be. It's not, this is not my design at any level. This was just an article about this. These two gentlemen, Steiner and Rooney, apparently are the designers of the tool, and it's running from the control of a Raspberry Pi, and it made it possible for them to do a lot of extra work that would have involved a much, much more expensive setup. And in the scheme of FOSS and our meetings, I think this represents the sort of thing that really shows why FOSS is so important. With the aid of new tools like 3D printers and various other kinds of electronics in the form of Arduinos and Raspberry Pis, it's all open source. It's all available and can be built upon by one person or a dozen people or 1,000 people or 100,000 people sharing their effort to build something really fancy. Which leads me to somebody who has done the effort to develop software that allows people to tie into the navigation system of the public waterways, the commercial system, and know where you are if you have your own equipment linked up, while you are also able to keep yourself out of the way of 100-ton or 200-ton or 1,000, 1,000-ton tanker. Those ships are in many bays, and if you're trying to run a small boat, you might want to know where they are as much as you want to know where you are. I can speak from personal experience on this. Back in 1976, we had a little boat and we're very excited to go see the tall ships. And all was well in the middle of the night as we drove our boat from Hingham Harbor up toward the airport where the ships were passing or going to pass. It was 4 or 5 in the morning because we knew we had to get there at a time ahead of the ships. All of a sudden, the gray bank of fog that was in front of us let out a huge horn beep as we were about to run into the side of a tanker. And they saw us. Otherwise, we'd have run right into them. And this would have been very good to figure out where we would have been safer. We didn't crash, fortunately. I'm still here to tell the story.
Very nice.
Yeah. And that
I have a related piece of GPS news to share. Following up on that, Google apparently a couple of years ago issued a challenge for people to figure out how to use the GPS system built into Android phones and Google's improved GPS API, and the greater horsepower in the ARM chips now, to do something approximating the super high res of my fancy schmancy better than a GPS that I reported on the free but not entirely open yet software a year or two ago here. And people are getting there. The challenge was for decimeter, which is to say 4-inch accuracy, and using smarter processing. They're, I think, getting 1 foot accuracy now. I'll put the links in the chat. This does not work with iPhone because iPhone does not expose the API of the GPS chips to local programs. Case of Android
Cool.
being more open, I guess.
Or more hoping that your data will become theirs.
Oh, Apple is just as much about that as Google.
They're just the big kid on the block, so they get their shots taken whenever they can. People take shots at them.
Yes.
Yeah.
As well they should.
Okay. Let me briefly pass through the Arduino section just mentioning that if you are interested in watching a real expert talk about electronics to learn your own Raspberry Pi skill, hone your own Raspberry Pi skills, or anything else electronics, this fellow, whose name is Bill something, I don't know his last name because it's on the first name basis of the internet. It's called Drone Bot Workshop, and he has hundreds of videos that explain, along with written documents for guiding you through the same concepts. And everything that I've watched makes sense to me, even though I can't implement it as yet. He explains things at a good level, very clearly. As long as you're interested in the topic, you can probably follow and make sense of what he's giving you of information. So I recommend checking out his information and the YouTube videos that he has produced. They're very good. Okay. We're doing okay on this stuff, so let's move along. Mastodon for live tuning conferences. This
Helga?
yes.
Before we leave the hardware section, may
Yes.
I mention one? We've been playing with something quite interesting, and the price was astonishing. Our doorbell doesn't reach to all corners of the house now that our hearing isn't quite as good as it used to be. And we went out to see what we could do. And I wasn't particularly interested in video. I just wanted to hear in all corners of the house. We dropped in a day or two ago at Target, right? No, Lowe's Hardware in Framingham. And they had on sale something like, it looked like it might do everything. Once we got it home and got it out of the box, it looked even better. And it was on sale, marked down. You can find these at most all of the stores, running about $35 to $50. It was on sale for $11. And it's a kit that includes this little guy. Can everyone see it okay?
Mm-hmm.
And its brand name is Honeywell Home. It has lights and it has noises. And if I'm lucky, I can turn them off. So it does all kinds of interesting attention-getting stuff when the doorbell rings. It turns out it's not loud enough either. If we keep it upstairs, it'll work fine. If we keep it downstairs, it'll work fine there. But unless we put two doorbells buttons out on the door, I don't see how to ring this one and the standard old style button with a chime together. It's quite marvelous. The button that comes in the kit lasts for 3 years on a single 2032 battery, teeny tiny, and works this just fine at any distance we have in the house. It's the sound that's short-changing us. And the button itself costs $13 instead of the whole kit, including it, for $11. So those of you who are near Lowe's Hardware might want to take a look. This one comes from Honeywell Home, and it's their Series 5. They have some almost identical ones that are not Series 5. This is the one that's been on sale. Yesterday, after we bought it, I went online to see if they still had them, and they still had something, but it was at the old original price. I don't understand that. I think something's out of kilter on their announcements online, but You could call up before you go over and ask if they have them. You can look online to see what it is. My big question is anyone a step ahead of us in the other direction? How can I use that doorbell that can run this? How can I use it to talk to, say, a smartphone or anything else that can listen in? Is there any open source software that's working on that end of things? I haven't looked yet to find the exact channel, but I think it's a generic question at this point.
It might turn out that there's something that the Home Assistant software that I mentioned earlier would integrate with, if not this item itself. So you might want to look into that Home Assistant. And
that's what brought me to run
see-
and go bring
see-
this in.
there you go.
It does look promising, possibly, so I will look and report back.
And
Thank-
this brings back the question of if the connectivity requires your internet to be up because it has to go out to a server and back.
That being the main goal, I think, of Home Assistant plus the Raspberry Pi or Arduino kind of implementation of tools.
Well, we got this one because it didn't do that. It only talks between the part that makes the noise and the button that goes on the door.
There shouldn't be any reason why you couldn't have something that hooks up through your home network and is intranet instead of internet.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, people don't build that because that requires more configuration than the average Best Buy consumer is capable of.
True. Phoning home is a simpler approach, meaning phoning the mothership home, but at the same time, they wind up having more information from your house than you intended. That's some people
And
care
bricking your
about.
hardware. And it bricks your hardware when they get sick of running the server.
Exactly. Too many times.
Well, I do know that wireless HDMI still exists. So there are ways of going wireless within your house. It may have to be line of sight, though.
Well, maybe I will succeed in pulling enough information together with this new Arduino and Raspberry Pi thing that we can propose a way to get a group of us together to build a whole bunch of the answers to these questions.
Yeah, I was looking at the specs on this device, and it is wireless, but it's not compatible with Wi-Fi or Bluetooth.
Ooh.
Which from a privacy point of view is privacy, that's a good thing.
Yeah. It's a good thing if you can connect to it.
It's just not connectable or extendable.
Yeah.
Now, one possibility, Dick, is if two of those devices can bond to the same button. I've been lucky occasionally to get remote reading wireless thermometers that instead of having a wire or a temperature probe snaked through the window, you have a transmitter outside and the outdoor thermometer inside, and it talks by something like XB or Bluetooth or something, getting two sets and only using one of the remotes, being able to read it from both upstairs lavatory and downstairs lavatory, until of course it just fails. But so
We do
you
have
might be able to buy it.
We do have that kind of external thermometer with a reader inside, and as I recall, you can change the wavelength it runs on. So I suppose if you could put two of them on the same wavelength, that should work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they're just deconflicting by the. Probably aren't going to be 7 of them within 100 feet. And if the doorbell has the same philosophy, possibly not even like with the old baby monitors, you could listen to the neighbor's baby monitor because they were all on the same frequency. It was only if the houses were spaced as far apart as in the deep burbs that you had any privacy. You might be able to hear the neighbor's doorbell if they buy the same doorbell, but that means if so, you could have one receiver upstairs, one receiver downstairs, one receiver in the Great Hall, main room, and they might all work. If they're bonded pairs at the factory, no adjustments, that won't work.
Definitely no adjustments on it. I don't know whether they're bonded, like you're saying.
Yeah, they could be pairwise bonded, such that if one half breaks, you have to throw the other half out, or they could be. I'll listen for the loudest doorbell when I power up, and that's the one I'll latch onto.
Okay. Sounds like good possible future for us.
And I have one additional hardware item from the same topic, but it's a whole different result. We came back with another kit for the same job, and it's made by Heath Zenith. You remember Heathkit and Zenith Radio.
Oh, wow.
Combination of Heath Zenith. And it takes a different approach. Instead of using no batteries whatsoever, the fancy little receiver guy like this one, for that, looks more like a ring detector without the camera. And this end of the job plugs into a standard wall outlet, so it doesn't need batteries. The button is what's interesting on the other one. No batteries. Your act of pushing it puts out enough signal to be detected. Now that's interesting too. And that kit was selling at the same Lowe's Hardware for $28. Unfortunately, the specs on both of them have almost identical decibel maximum sound volume. So, which is, by the way, 44, no.
80,
what?
84. 84.
I don't think so. Well, you can look them up. Anyway, it's so close I didn't decide to slice the box open. More likely to just return it. But that button has interesting possibilities.
Yeah.
And a couple of
piezoelectric.
How does it generate the signal? Through
Piezoelectric
kinetic energy. End of discussion. That's all we know so far.
Oh,
so, I think we've got more we can look up online now that we know it.
I just looked it up. Piezoelectric.
Great. Bill?
Oh. And there's probably a catch-22 on the 84 decibels. If it was loud enough for you to hear it all the way across the house, it would probably be too loud for a normal person standing next to it by federal noise pollution standards or something. We had problems with that on the farm. The one federal safety wanted the beeper on the backup beeper on the forklift to be louder than the other agency wanted the driver exposed to.
What's good for the goose is not necessarily good for the gander.
You're
Oh.
getting ahead of yourself. Dad jokes are at the end.
I'm sorry about that. They come anytime into my head, and if I don't say them, they disappear just as quickly.
Okay, they also have the Honeywell home at Home Depot, which is in Natick, for those of you who don't like to venture into the ham.
All right. Hot
They're
in.
They're
Yeah.
only about half a mile from each other.
True.
Okay. If you are not using Mastodon, you may remember going to conferences and being encouraged by the organizers of a conference to use social media, at the time probably Twitter, to tell what the conference was accomplishing and tell all your friends about good sessions and so on. That was something I remember doing at several education conferences, while at the same time trying to get some other people to even think about the benefits of using social media for communication. But now people have begun to see that Twitter is not the only way to do it, and they're recommending moving to Mastodon. This is just a person's opinion. You don't need to agree with it, but I thought I'd present it here as an idea to follow up on if you're interested. The second link here in the hot internet is about a person's take, as it were, his blog opinion about why sharing someone else's social media comment actually is possibly leading to a burden of advertising as a result. Because while you don't do a repeat of somebody's post to be advertising, it's possible that that person who made the original post wasn't actually doing it honestly. They were linking to a link, which was a link for advertising. And we haven't run into that problem too much with our channel here on YouTube. But when I'm watching YouTube videos, I am presented with certain kinds of ads that surprise me, that I know are linked because of the people that I follow for whatever purpose. And just as an interesting person's perspective. And if you want to read it, follow the Swimming the Net Upstream link. We already talked about the fall of Firefox and have not necessarily beaten that to death, but done a good job, I think, earlier in this meeting. Dick has a group of benefits that kind of fall in the same question of Swimming the Net Upstream's opinions. Dick, you ready to talk to us about the benefits?
Before we go in there into that,
yes.
Can I mention that the Creative Freedom Summit is later this month? It's put together by Fedora. They have people present about making artwork and stuff. So I am giving a talk there about building with digital Legos.
Could you add the link to their program in the notes so that we have that?
Yep, I could do that.
That'd be great. Thank you, Dennis.
Dick will be back. Dick will
Okay.
be back momentarily. He needed to borrow my power cord.
Shall I skip ahead and then come back?
Skip ahead.
Hewlett Packard was sued many years ago for their predatory practices of making only Hewlett Packard Inc. cartridges work. If you remanufactured their cartridges, the cartridge wouldn't deliver ink to the printer. And apparently they're being sued again for that. So if you have any concerns, you might want to read that link. This EFF Robots text recommendation for using our website we've done before, but this is a different recommendation set. And I thought I'd present it just as a link so that if you want to make a comment about our website, the NatickFOSS website, currently hosted with the BLU server, we have a robots text file on the server that limits who is
Try unplugging this and plugging it in.
shall we say, and many services.
Oh, we can hear you talking to Dick in the background.
Okay, maybe they muted. Our robots text is supposed to be read by any service that wants to take information off a site. And our robots restrictions are listed in that text file. If you want to comment about any of that after reading the article, we currently disallow GPT chat in the form of the GPT bot. But if you want more, we don't currently do Bard. And I'd be interested in reactions about that and any other issues related to it that you are aware of, so that we can have our information kept private rather than officially being free. I don't think it does much for our privacy, except for my foolishness with my address showing up in the YouTube. But that's not your problem. Anyway, please do think about that and either comment now or later. Anybody have a reaction instantly?
Unfortunately, we needed to know to put it in there 6 months before they announced they'd scraped the web.
That, unfortunately, is true for the baseline. But if we add anything new that's valuable, at least in theory, they're supposed to read that every single time the robot checks the site.
Agreed.
And any new stuff would theoretically be excluded. I do not know to what extent organizations honor the robots file. It's possible that they generally do. I expect that's probably true, but I'd have no guarantee that it is. Looks like Dick might be back and ready for us. You need to unmute before you start. There you go.
I stole Jill's computer when she wasn't looking. That's not quite true. Let's see, are we up to there? I lost my sound on mine for reasons neither of us were finding quickly. I did run the battery down a lot faster than I expected. Okay, let's see. Let me put them up where I can see them too. Here they come. I have some interesting discoveries I've been playing with. They're largely been hardware, but the software ones on security were interesting me. There are a couple of companies out that have been working very hard on higher levels of security in various ways. And one of those companies is doing its own philosophical search on how secure do you want to be? Is some tracking good? And they've taken the position that in their opinion, they're supporting no tracking, or as close as can be gotten in this run and gun battle that's out there. So it's their discussion internally on it that got me so interested. And I've pulled wait a minute, here I am. I learned a new word, open washing. A lot of companies are using open to suggest that it's open source when it's not, or to even use open source, but to use it in ways that are not, to take advantage of the attraction of the concept of open source software and misuse it to surprise people. So that business of open washing, using the right words to make people think it's secure. And these companies happily lie about that because they're trying to resell the data. Or in the case of governments, ours and any other one big enough to play ball, they're all trying to outbeat the other one to grab the information better than the other country can. And they've got rules in place, including in the US, to make a company like, say, YouTube, try to protect your software and your identity and where you've been, but not if the government requests it. And we just found out, I think a week or two ago in the news, that local police departments can go through that route and get the data through the federal government, which allows them to tap into it. So it's at a much broader level than we expect, and that's in the US. Imagine in China or Russia, where they're all doing the same things because someone might be doing something wrong and we want to hear everything so we can catch it. Counter directions. Well, one company has taken steps about that, and other people are taking the task and saying, a little tracking would be good. For one thing, it would allow the developers to get paid on volume when you're not counting for the volume because you're not getting counted. For another thing, it might tell them that when you're at a high enough volume of use, you might like to contribute at year's end, say, which we've all been through with a lot of messages.
So there's a debate going on as to what level do you want? What level do you want the government not to want within reason? And what level might you want within reason in order to feed the places that you're benefiting from? And the discussion was very interesting to me. I give you, those who know can go onto our own webpage. Just go to millermicro.com. And when you get there, do a search for money is not wealth. You'll find it way down in the list. And in it, we've got a short form of these 3 articles. And these 3 articles online open with a short form version. So you see if you want to go into the main ones, they're pretty big. And I thought they were pretty damned interesting. It affects every single one of us. Where do we want to draw the line? Where do we want our government to draw the line? Where do we want the Free Software Foundation to putting efforts in on different kinds of projects to do this? Because we are being lied to very heavily. The net of 1,000 lies is now the net of 1 million lies per day. So I thought it was really interesting reading. I hand it over to you, and I want to come back again next month with some actual tools you can kick in for doing something about it. As of now, I know a bunch of interesting names, and beyond the obvious ones we've been using all along, I don't know which ones to really trust. One more little tip, the one that got me so interested instantly, I already mentioned it, it's called Netfire. It's got something like 800 forks out there, and a lot of them aren't with its approval. Again, watch out for the open washing. People can grab what looks like the one you want and make something that looks like that to be the one that's the worst possible combination. So I've got more homework to do for next month, and you can start reading up on why I'm interested. That's it. Thanks.
Do you want me to click on any of those links for you, Dick?
I think everyone can click on them when they're ready to read them or download them for reading, either one. They all look to me like they were recommended as reliable. And you can
related.
Pardon?
Related to your topic of open washing, I posted in the chat links for Bruce Perrin's discussion of what should come after open.
Excellent. Right on the button. And I think the fall of Firefox, I think we were hearing something a little like this from the other side. We get so much loaded information and we miss most of it by not going on the mainstream ones that are the main targets for it. But still, it's a zoo out there. Yes, that was a very good article. And one of my articles mentions it, one of these 3 links to it. Good.
Okay, I'm scanning the remaining section of the guide here, our agenda, and we have about 15 minutes before our typical end time. I want to be sure that if Dennis has a game of the month, he gets a chance to do that because he's tied up with business most of these days, these recent months. Do you have something you want to give us on game of the month, Dennis?
I can give you a game of the month, but I can't demo it.
Okay.
But I can show you the website for it. And they probably have screenshots on it. Let me share my screen.
Shall I unshare mine?
Sure. So this is Battle for the Solar System. Do they have screenshots somewhere? I might have a screenshot somewhere. The game itself is you fly around in a ship and they have so that you can switch to and disable them. Ships. Right. See if I can find a picture of it. The game is designed with a storyline. Yes. I was trying out, and I didn't like the using mouse and keyboard, so I have. Great, no one dare me. I modified it to work with the H now, a standard game controller, and so if you want to check it out, I think it's kind of a fun game. So I will stop sharing. So hopefully I stop breaking up.
Thank you. I think, Dennis,
Am I better now for sound?
I missed most of your comments. Something about your system was breaking up for me, and I think several others. But maybe it will turn out better on the recording. We'll have to hope so. I'll reshare.
Probably not. I think at this point I need a better computer. I just do too much on my computer.
Too many open processes, huh? Or not enough CPUs to handle it.
Dennis, your sound just turned fine. Something changed.
No, once you turned off your sharing.
Yeah, that's why I've been pre-recording all those the video games in the past, but I didn't get a chance to do this one. Maybe I'll do it again next month and get a proper recording of it.
Okay. Back to my view of the agenda, and without any attempt to leave something out, we have one item that I think would be a good idea to just get out of the way, even though it really might make a lot of interesting discussion. There is a train system in Poland, and it turned out that the engines for the trains
Is all that frozen for everybody?
Here.
Yes.
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 Well, we can wait a little while, or we can see what we want to finish off on the agenda.
Or just refrain from using trains.
Yes, well, it's very much like what Harvester has done with their equipment, where they have withheld certain things about their software and about how you maintain their hardware. Only these are trains, so they have a hard stop when you have to do maintenance.
Harvester.
International Harvester. Oh, John Deere.
Oh, right.
Dear
Companies
John,
like them. They don't allow you the right to repair. And here they got into a proprietary repair protocol, which was undocumented. And they were trying to get the documentation from the company. And they couldn't. And they couldn't get the trains started. So they had to cobble together different computers into different trains and all kinds of stuff. Fascinating article. Definitely not open source, and also perhaps at variance with what the EU standards are.
The company is a U.S. company or
No, this is-
Chinese?
Oh, go ahead.
The train company, the train builder company is in what country?
This is in Poland, and I believe all the companies involved are Polish, one of which is their national railway. And the national railway and their contractor were going back and forth about this. They almost terminated the contract, and it was under that kind of deadline pressure that somebody finally finished the hacking to get it all put together.
Gosh.
With just 1 day to go.
Oh.
Fascinating article.
Assuming that Dennis is hearing fine.
No, Algot. I don't even see him in the list here.
Dennis? I do.
Oh, Dennis
Algot
is
is the one who was
fine.
talking.
Let me try again. Assuming that Dennis is listening in, Dennis, give us a call. We have a small stack of extra computers.
For more computing power.
Yeah, I don't even see a list of what's in the room. Jerry is like way off in right field somewhere, and I get this like foot-long scroll bar at the bottom.
Interesting. I've got a list of people, and a couple people are called fellow Jitzer, and there are two black blank.
I don't see a fellow Jitzer on here. I just have 6 people, me, Bob, Dennis, Ed, Dick
Yeah,
and
that,
Jill, Arnie, and Bill Ricker just came back on.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
about the way it's happening here.
I was wound up in a meeting all by myself. I finally decided to try a reload and see if it reattached me.
I kept restarting my computer for chattering sound that turned out not to be my computer.
Hmm.
But this one is
Okay.
cozier.
Right, with the 2 of us in the same picture here.
That's cute.
So anyway, is there anything else we want to cover on the agenda?
Don't see the agendas.
Let me see if I can share the agenda, since I think I want to put that in a new, move it to a new window. And now I can do a screen share of the window. Let's see.
Or you could tell a dad joke.
Yeah, good.
Or Bill Ricker tell a Chad joke.
Better.
Let me see if this will share. Got a share there?
Yes.
Yes.
It looks good.
Okay. So we have our agenda. Anything else we want to cover?
You
What
can
the
see
heck
my
are
meta
digital
dad joke.
snowflakes?
Say again, Jill.
What the heck are digital snowflakes?
Okay.
I know a few of them.
Let's see where that leads. Oh, yeah, this is the paper snowflake maker. I think Alga knows something about how it works and how you can.
I'm sorry. I was AWOL. I don't know how long.
Well, there's a question about your. There's a question about the digital snowflake maker. I'm going
Yes.
to stop my screen share so that you can share.
We're ready for a demo.
Okay. Maybe that's what broke it. So let me try again here. Sharing that screen. Try again. Let me know by keeping up my chatter if I can sort of still be part of what you're doing.
Yeah, so far so good. And
Do
then we
you
can do the
see-
digital snowflake.
Do you see a triangle?
Yes.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
All right. If I, this left-hand panel is where the snowflake will appear. It will be built out of this triangle, this isosceles triangle, with cuts taken out of it. So if I take a cut, just one, and close that part, I can then ask it to make a snowflake. Did you see that?
Yes.
Okay. If I then make another cut, and make snowflake again, it gets even more character. A third. And so on until you've completely lost your mind with all the cuts you can make.
Can you do one that's entirely within the white area without going out
Yes.
to the edge?
Let me reset. And start.
Oh, okay. Ooh.
snowflake. I felt that that looked too much like a hexagon unless you broke somewhere along the lower edge. And you can save these and print them out, I presume, and fold them if you wanted to, but I don't know that you can actually there you go.
Ooh, I wish I could afford one of those.
One of what?
Well, I'm still pondering that. How many computers does it take to make a snowstorm?
That's a darn good question.
That was a dad joke, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Just a bad joke.
Oh, yeah. Now, I do not, as I said offline, I think, I do not believe this is open source in any way, but because there's no charge for this site and it's not heavily an advertising site, and you might go back and find out more than I took the time to do. This was presented to me as a way to make a digital snowflake for an endeavor called the Daily Create, which is part of a group that I'm part of. And I just thought it was so fascinating that you might enjoy seeing it as well. Okay, we're at 5:02. Ed, did you wish to take us through the 10 fun commands, or shall we put that off along with what I skipped over for next month?
Okay, I guess we could probably put that off to next month. It's something that looked interesting that I added.
Okay. I hope that you have a fabulous 3 weeks to the next meeting. It is the 1st of February. For those who haven't looked at their calendar yet, we meet the first Thursday of every month during the year, except those around Labor Day, 4th of July, and the Christmas New Year's holiday. So, anybody have any last minute thoughts before we let you go off to suppers and evening activities?
Goodbye.
I'll say it again.
Yes, goodbye.
Okay, see you all in a few weeks.
I will wish you well.